Today I have the pleasure to be with Jeremy Rifkin, European Union Councillor. It's a pleasure.
Nice to be here.
First, I'd like you to tell me about the strengthening of carbon dioxide emissions reduction. Do you think the targets for 2030 can be met?
Well, this mobility revolution is part of a larger revolution. We're making a great shift from a fossil fuel-based industrial revolution, the age of progress, that's dying. And the planet now is in climate change, and we're in an extinction event. And we're making a transition now to an emerging renewable energy civilization and a whole new approach to mobility and logistics, which is electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cell transport for long-range transport, charging stations, and this changes the whole dynamic because fossil fuels are that's taken us to global climate change, global warming, and an extinction event. So by 2028 or 2030, electric vehicles, they're now competitive. People are buying them, and they will be the dominant sales by 2030. So we are phasing out the industrial age fossil fuel engines that started with steam engine locomotives in the 19th century all the way until the second decade of the 21st century. This is good news. Lots of new economic opportunities, lots of new business, and lots of employment.
Here, is it possible for all countries to comply with these regulations?
Well, yes. I mean, the codes, regulations, and standards are essential for any infrastructure that we develop. The great infrastructure revolutions in history combined four technology revolutions in one package. New communication revolutions, new energy regimes, number two, new approaches to mobility and logistics, number three, and new ways of organizing water, number four. So in the 19th century, the communication revolution in Britain was steam power printing. Steam power printing. And then later the telegraph system in the last part of the century. The energy revolution is we had depleted the forest, they went to coal, and that became the new energy. The mobility revolution was the locomotive, steam engine. That changed everything. And in the water revolution, this was the first country since the fall of Rome to create a modern water system based on bringing water to homes and industries and taking wastewater back and purifying it. And so this revolution, mobility and logistics are always part of it, along with the others. And why that's common sense is that every infrastructure revolution actually repeats what every organism has to have. Every in high school, every organism has to have a means to communicate, even plants. They have to have some source of energy to stay alive. They have to have mobility and even motility. Plants have to move, open and shut. They have to have water. So these infrastructure revolutions are just giant social organisms that bring large numbers of people together for communication, energy, mobility, and logistics, and water. In this case, the revolution in mobility is accompanied by three others. The communication revolution is the internet. 4.5 billion people with a little smartphone in their hand that have more computing power than sent our astronauts to the moon. That is huge distributed power at near zero marginal cost. The energy revolution, solar and wind. We have millions of people generating their own sun and wind, harvesting it where they live, where they work, in their neighborhoods, on their farms. Pretty soon, much of the human race. The mobility revolution, electric vehicles and hydrogen transport for long haul. The water revolution, water internets are coming in. Because we have floods, then we have droughts, then we have floods, then we have droughts with global warming. The amount of water is the same from the beginning of the planet to the end. It's not disappearing, but it's coming down at different times. So we're getting floods, droughts, wildfires, hurricanes. So the water revolution is harvesting the water where you live when it comes down on your rooftop, putting it in microgrids, and then using big data analytics and algorithms to move water, just like we do with the energy internet and the communication internet and now the mobility internet. That's the big transformation. Lots of new businesses, massive employment.
Do you believe that electrical grids are ready to meet future energy demand?
The market's doing it. And the reason is solar and wind in 2019 became the cheapest energies in the world. The levelized cost of solar, way cheaper than nuclear, coal, oil, and natural gas. So the market's there. So most of the new energy coming in is solar and wind. And I think the International Energy Agency says that by around late 2020s, we'll see the end of coal as a peak. That'll be the peak, and that'll be gone. Then we're seeing a year or two later, the same thing happen with natural gas and oil and natural gas. So the market's there, the technology's there, and what's interesting is billions of dollars have flooded out of the fossil fuel-based industrial civilization because it's all stranded assets. They'll never amortize out their assets. That means their exploration rights, their refineries, their pipelines, they're not going to be here. So, gone. And what they're looking for, all this money, 11 trillion, they want to have new opportunities for communication internet, energy internet, mobility internet, water internet. So the thing that's holding it back is political will and fossil fuel companies that are gaming the political system. So last thing on this, if you go and visit mayors around the world, they'll show you their 10 electric buses and their tiny bike paths and their lead buildings. They're all pilots. You got all this money coming out of fossil fuels, the technology and markets there for the new mobility of electric vehicles powered by solar and wind and electricity internet and managed by the communication internet. It's all here, but it has to scale. So we need a younger generation. We need the Gen Zs and millennials to get into government, get into industry, get into academia, and start making this transformation. The older generation will not do it.
Regarding the investigation into Chinese EVs and what results do you hope to achieve?
I think the big thing is, much of the fossil fuels goes to transport. So that's the big key. A lot of it goes to industry, a lot of it goes to agriculture, and a lot of it goes to transport, mobility, and logistics. So the sooner we can get out of fossil fuel-based internal combustion transport, not just cars, but ocean traffic, air corridor traffic, inland water, and rail, and move to solar and wind, the better prepared we'll be to try to adapt to a changing climate. People are frightened everywhere. Everywhere, young people, old people are scared. They don't recognize this planet anymore. They're experiencing their daily life, the flood, the drought, the wildfire, the tsunami. They're scared. Instead of being scared, we have to see this crisis as an opportunity. The infrastructure is waiting. The technology is there and the market's speaking. And the money is there. We have to rid ourselves of the old fossil fuel interests that are gaming the system of politicians. Move quick.
Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.